Welcome everybody on this tutorial about Next.js, the framework made on React. During the next hour, maybe more, we are going to watch at all the basics of Next.js and what does it give more than React. So basically we are going to look at the very fast refresh of Next.js, the routing and file routing system, image optimization, static assets, SEO, API routes, and different models of data fetching and rendering. So let's go directly and let's dive directly into Next.js. So we go on nextjs.org, and here we've got start learning and documentation. So if you click on start learning, basically you got a very good tutorial that has been made by Versal on how to learn and how to use Next.js and what is it. So here you get a quick explanation, which is very interesting. But what I propose you to do is to directly open your code editor, which what I did in here. And we are going to create a project together, and we are going to watch at what Next.js is providing to us. So I am on my directory right now, and I propose you to create the application directly. So I'm going to type npx create, okay, next app, and here I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to put Next.js YouTube tutorial, okay, and I'm going to type enter. So I'm going to maybe zoom a little bit for you guys. Yeah, that's better. So I'm going to type enter, and here is going to create for me the application. So as you see, we've got React and React DOM that is been fetched, and we will see in a few that we will get our app created just in here. Amazing. So I'm going to enter in this project. So what was the name again? Just forget. Just type the name and just forget the name again. Next.js YouTube tutorial. So I'm going to go down. I'm going to open it. And there we go. We've got our project that is running, not running, but that is here. All right. So what we're going to do directly inside the project, we are going to launch it and look at it directly. So here, there we go. I'm supposed to have my project on localhost 3000. And there we go. Guys, we've got our app Next.js running in here. So there's a lot of differences, not that much, but there's differences from React in here. We've got less files and less folders, I would say. So let's talk about the configuration of a Next.js project. Basically, we've got a Next.js config file at the root of the file. So I'm going to remove the terminal in here. And here it's going to be all about the configuration of Next.js, all right? We've got a package.json, okay? We've got our readme, we've got our gitignore, and we've got here ESLint configured. And then we've got basically 5 folders, so not module folders. We are not going to look at it. We got the next here that is actually the application that is already been built. Because if we look at here, we've got Next.dev, okay, Next.dev, that's what we did. We are right now running the application on dev. But if we type next build, it's going to build our app directly in here. So the server already made it for us. So we have this when we arrive. We've got a page folder, and here we see that we've got our JavaScript files. We are going to look at it just after. The public folder with the image and etc. etc. And also a style folder with the CSS files. Okay? So what I propose you to do right now is to look at the pages folder. And what we're going to do, we are going to look at the first component, which is index.js. And if I look at index.js, and if you are familiar to React, we understand quickly that our home function, which is our index.js file, is this page that I have here, the root page. So in Next.js, there is a dynamic file routing system, okay? And this dynamic file routing system works this way. You create a page, all right, in the pages folder, and the name of this page is going to be a root, okay? So basically here we are going to create a new page that we are going to see that it's going to be generated. So I'm going to create products.js, all right? And I'm going to export default my function, okay? So what I'm doing here is that I'm going to export by default a function which the name is product, and I'm going to return some HTML because I want to generate a new page. So this is a page for products, okay? I save, and when I get back and I go into the URL, if I type the name of my file, so here it's going to be products. So be safe, it's not going to be products.js, it's just going to be products. If I type this, we see that I directly arrive on a page for products that is here. So we will see later that we can create several pages like this, and all our architecture is rendered from here. So let's imagine right now, let's take another example, that I create a products folder and I put an index.js file in it. And I take this one, I remove it, okay? And here I copy paste what I had from page folder. And when I get back and I update, it works. So as you see, if I put an index.js file at the root of a folder, it creates the main page. Next.js provides this automatic file routing system that creates pages from the architecture of your folder, which is very amazing. If you know Next.js with Vue, it might be familiar for you. Now Next.js is doing it. Now let's imagine that we want to have sub-pages in here in our folder. And let's say that we would like to have a specific page for a product, one product, and it's going to be a page with an ID. So what I can do is to create a new page, okay, which will be with brackets id.js, okay, and I'm going to copy paste this, and it's going to be, this is a specific page for a product. All right, so now if I save and I get back in here, and after my product I put blah 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 blah, for instance, as an ID, and I type enter, we see that I arrive on a specific page for product. So here we succeed to create a new page, the page for the product, okay, which will be of course a children for the parent page product. Now let's say that I want to catch this idea that we got in here. So how can I do? What I have to do basically is to use the router of Next, because the router of Next give us informations, JavaScript informations basically, on the current route we are in. So I'm going to type import, and I'm going to open an object from Next router, which is provided directly, okay, by Next. You don't have to install it. I'm going to use the function useRouter, okay, and I'm going to type router is equal useRouter, and what I want to catch, what do I want to catch? That's the question, okay? From the router.query, okay, what do I want to catch? I want to catch the ID that I put in between the curly brackets that I have in here. So this is a specific route, a specific page, I missed that, for product ID. And here I'm going to open my curly brackets like this, and I'm going to put ID. So what did I do? I imported my useRouter function, all right? And I've created a router variable. I deconstruct my router query, okay, with the ID. And now I display my ID down here. So I'm going to get back, and there we go. I can display the ID. If I change by my current ID, okay, I'm gonna have the ID in here. If I put a random number, it's going to be the same. So which is really cool is that you can build your whole website, your whole web application, and the whole architecture with this automatic file routing system. You do not have any router to deal with anymore. But how does it work? Let's look at our app.js file down here, and let's try to understand. In my underscore app.js, I've got a very easy piece of code here. I've got the function myapp, which is not exported, which is the root actually of our application. And I'm returning this component here element, which come as an argument down here, which page props. This component has a role for the routing system. It displays everything from here and it passes the props in here. So on the fly, Next.js is creating for us the root and is displaying the route we want to watch on the fly when we enter the URL. All right. So it's as easy as this. So let's say that now we would like to have some kind of, we would like to get back first at the product page. So how can we do this? So we are on our ID page in here. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use what we call a link. So I'm going to copy paste this. Okay, right. But actually, that's what I'm going to do here. There we go. Let's say that I want to have a back button. What I can do is coming up there and import link from next link. And link is a component that helps me to trigger the router. So I go there and I'm going to create a new link. So I'm opening in here link. And I'm going to type back to products. And a link, it's really easy. You just have to put an href in here and I want to get back to my product page. So I get back and I get my button up there. And if I click on it, I'm back on my products page. But what I want to have now is a list of products. Okay, I want to have a list of products, and when I click on them, I want to go to the products. I'm going to close this and I'm going to get back on my products page, which is here. I'm going to do exactly the same. So here I'm going to, oops, went too fast. There we go. There we go. This is a page for products. I'm going to import again my link, which is here. And basically, I'm going to create this list of links. So here I want to have several routes. So I'm going to type routes. Okay, let's say this. Let's say products. It's better. And it's going to be with an ID. And I'm going to have one. I'm going to have a second one and a third. And let's say that the first product will have a name. And this name would be, I don't know. Give me ideas. No, you can't. So iPhone. Okay, iPhone 11. This one is going to be iPhone 12. And this one is going to be iPhone 13. All right. So I got my H1. And what I'm going to do right now is creating a loop. And it's going to be products. And I'm going to map. Okay. I'm going to map on these products. And what I'm going to return is a link, of course. So I have to put a key because I'm on a loop. And I have to tell the browser that it's different elements in here. So I'm going to put an href, curly brackets, and here I'm going to use the backticks, and the backticks are going to help me to put my element, which will be an x.id. All right. Down there, I'm going to put an a, and this a is going to be x.name. So let's get back at what we just have done. We have imported our link element, which will be here. We want to create a list of products, which will be all of them a link. We created our list, which is here. So basically, let's get back and let's see. Okay, so I got an error because I missed the index in here. Yes, I'm using the index of the loop. And when I get back, there we go. So this one is a bit dirty. So what I'm gonna do is to create, yes, here, get back here, and I'm going to put some style. And again, you can use everything that you know from React. So here I'm going to put a display, and it's going to be a flex, and I'm going to put that in here like this. There we go. Flex direction colon. There we go. And there we go. We've got our products in here. And when I click on them, this is the product ID 1, this is the product ID 2, this is the product ID 3, and there we go. So we've got a list link in here with elements that I can click on, and I can come back on the previous page, and this is really cool. So all of this code, guys, of course, is going to be on the repository that I'm going to put on the video. Don't worry for that. Let's take a look now at components. Components, it's a piece of code that you can reuse in your application. So basically, this course is not about clean architecture or a specific architecture. So here I'm going to create directly a folder called components, all right? And let's say that we would like to have a header on top of our app. So what I'm gonna do is here in my components, exactly like the pages, I can create a folder called header, and inside I can create an index.js. I'm doing this because I'm pretending that maybe later I will have several little elements that I will include into my header. So what I'm going to do is that, like always, creating an export function, which will be header, and I'm going to return, for now, header. This is my header. All right? And let's say that I want to have this header everywhere in my application. You understood previously that on my pages, I've got on app.js, I've got this component element. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to take this component element, and instead of that, I'm going to return a div like this and put my component in here. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to import my header directly in here. So when I get back, on every page I go, you see that my header is staying there, my component which is here. And I can not reuse this component because right now it's in here at the root of my file. But which is very cool is that now on my header, I could create a menu. So let's say that I have my header like this with a h1 and this my website, let's say my website, all right? And let's say that I want to use, let's say that I want to create first a logo, so I can get back on my component in here. And here, my logo is going just to be a file at the root of components in here. So I'm going to type export default function logo, all right? And here I'm going to use almost exactly the same as in here. So I'm going to return an h1 called my logo, all right? So I get back in here, and if I look for my logo, I can import directly my logo from here. And when I get back here, we see that I got my logo, my website, and there we go. So logo is another component that composes my header, which is here. I was about to do it, but of course you can use your link element in here, and let's say that, for instance, this will be on a div. Okay, there we go. And let's say that I will get a menu down here also. So div, this is my menu. All right, and here I got a link, so I import dynamically my link again, and I have products in here, and I can do like we did before in the other components. I can do this link to products. So when I get back in here, I get my button back to products, which is useless now because if I click on products, as you see, I can go back directly on products. So I will go on my public folder, and here I got a logo that I'm going to take, and this logo is me. Okay, so this logo will be used in my logo.js component. So how can I do this? I'm going to use image. So I'm going to import image, which is a component again from Next image. And it's really important to use image from Next image, guys, because Next provide, as I said as an introduction, an image optimization system. Okay, so basically I'm going to use this one, and what I'm going to do, I want to wrap it into a div. Okay, and I'm going to call my image in here, and I have to import my logo. So what I'm going to do is that import logo from and public and logo.png. So how do I display this image? What I gotta do is, of course, put my logo source between curly brackets. I'm going to add an alt code with Guillaume, which is the name of my channel, and if you don't follow me, please do. I provide a lot of courses like this. With a width, I'm going to put 200, and I'm going to put an 8 also. Okay, now I've got my logo, which is imported in here in my header, which is right now on my app.js down here. So if I get back, there we go, guys, I got my logo. I'm going to use again my router. So I'm going to type import, from next router, my useRouter again. Okay, and as we did before, we are going to create a router. We will be useRouter. So I can't click on my logo component. So I give you a little trick. Let's say that it's a beginner's trick. I got my div in here, but let's say that on click, okay, I got my function, and what I'm going to do is that I'm going to push, okay, router push to the root. The function push comes from the useRouter that is here. So I update, and see, when I click on it, it is working and I arrive on my home. All right, so you can use the router push function, and let's say that if we had a function, we could use it also in the JavaScript to replace the link that you got in here. We've got this page in here. I'm going to remove it. I'm going to go in here and just remove that and say home page. All right, we've got our home page empty right now. Let's talk now about the CSS. So when I go into my style folder, I got a global CSS file, which is for the global CSS of the whole app. For instance, if we got here, we see that we've got a preferred color schema, which is dark. And here, if I put light, suddenly my app is white. If I get back to dark, it's dark. Okay, simple. So basically, the global CSS file, which will be a file for the global styling of the application. You got also modules.css file that are specific to some page. So here we've got the home page. So remember, home is here. I'm going to change the CSS and put a max width of 140 pixels and a margin auto. And suddenly we see that our container CSS has been impacted, okay? We've got a container that changed, and here we've got the code that has been added, okay? Sorry, I've got this. Yeah, there we go. We've got the code that has been added to the CSS. So if you want to target specific file, use please the module.css, otherwise put your code into global.css. Of course, you got also the option, and if you know React, you know that, to put CSS as we did before. I don't remember where. I think it was in a page like this, in products maybe. Yes, here. You can still put CSS as a style option in a variable. This is a good practice. Now we are in CSS, let's talk about layouts. Layouts, it's a piece of code that you can reuse to cover the whole application. So let's say that you have different style and you want to display different layouts. What we're going to do is that in components, we are going to create a new folder which will be layouts. And we want a specific layout for the products. So here we create a products.js. It's always the same, so we are going to create a function called products layout, and we are going to use a parameter from the params object, which is here, called children. So all the application will be these children, and this is where we are going to inject later some piece of code that we just want for the layout products. So once we've done this, nothing happens, okay? We don't get a root or anything else. If we go on our page products, nothing changed. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to come back on my products page, which is here, and I'm going to import my products layout. So import products layout from products, there we go. And instead of having my div in here, I'm going to put simply my products layout. And at this step, nothing happens because I didn't do any CSS. So what I'm going to do here is that I need to create a products.module.css, and this product module.css will have a container, and this container will have a max width of 140 pixels, a margin auto, and let's say a color of red. We want everything to be red to understand that we are under the products. I've got my products module, and I'm going to get back on my layout, and I'm going to import my style. So import styles from, and here I can get back to styles/products module.css. And simply, I'm going to add my class name, which is here, class name. There we go, styles.container on my children. So I'm going to use this piece of code, the container piece, which is here, to my children. And when I get back, look at that. I've got my style applied from my layout. So let's rewind a little bit. We've created a layout for products. This is going to be a cover for all products pages. And this cover, all right, display children inside of herself. So when I go to index.js on the products, I had my layout somewhere. So it heritate from the code pasted in by the parent. And this piece of code here, we tried with a CSS file, which is down here. Okay, so this is how layouts are working. It's very useful when you have different pages that don't look the same. So I really encourage you to use layouts in your Next.js app. Let's talk about now SEO. And with Next.js, it's very important because we will see after that we can use a different way of rendering our pages, the server-side rendering, static rendering, etc., etc. So what I propose you to do is to introduce you to the head element of Vue.js, which help us actually to create our SEO element that we need. So for instance, in our header, what we're gonna do is we are going to import head from next head, all right? And this head element, so here we've got a header, but what we're gonna do is putting a div. We are going to put, for instance, at first, the title of this page. So now we are on my home page. So let's say that we are going to put my home page in here. And when I get back, if I look up there, I've got my title that changed. I could put a lot of other elements, such as the meta elements, name viewport like this. Let's say that we could put also an image for the graph API for the social media, etc., etc. And also what we could do is that we could directly create a component head with all that we need. And we could say, for instance, that in my pages in here, okay, yes, there we go. I would like to have the ID, okay, directly in the title. So now I go on my products, I go on page, and you see up there, I got dynamically my ID. Let's do a quick to-do tutorial right now. I go to pages. I create a new page called todo.js. Okay, and to start, this page is going to look as a simple function. Now I'm going to go on my to-do, and I have my to-do page, which is here. Now let's create two components. A component called list and a component called item. So I go on components, I create a new folder, and this folder is going to do. And I will have a list.js, and I will have an item.js. The first list is going to be a simple list like this, and for the item, okay, it's going to be a simple element like this. I go back on my to-do page, and I want to display my to-do list. So I'm going to use to-do list, and there we go. And when I get back, I got my to-do list down there. In the list now, so I'm going to close this, and I'm going to open again my component list, which is here. In the list, I'm going to display elements. So I'm going to use state. So I'm going to import from React, because React is available in here. I'm going to use my use state. And down there, I'm going to create first, okay, a new to-do. So new to-do. And I'm going to use the function set to-do to set my new to-do. Then I'm going to create the to-do list, and I'm going to be set to-do like this, and it's going to be an array. So here it's for the new to-do, here it's going to be for the list of to-do. All right? So down there, I'm going to, there we go. I want to have an input, and this input will be type text. Okay. And I want to have the value of my new to-do. And on change, I want a function. And this function is going to set my to-do. So let's try this. target.value. All right. And up there, I'm going to display the to-do we have. So new to-do. And there we go. I go there. And when I type, it's okay. It's setting my new to-do that we've got. Now we did this, we want to have a function that add the new to-do to to-dos. So I'm going to create a function called add to-do. And this function is going to set my to-dos. Okay. So remember my to-dos will be an array. So I'm going to keep the to-dos, existing to-dos in here. And I'm going to type new to-do in here. I want to add my new to-do, okay, in this array. My new to-do from here in this array. So here on the fly, it changed. And here it's my to-dos, my saved to-dos. And what I want to do, I want to create a function that will be triggered by a button. And this button is going to be add a to-do. And again, on click, it's going to add my to-do. So down there, I want to display my to-do list. So for now, it's to-dos, and I update. So I type something, I click, and then I have my to-do. I type again, etc., etc. So we see it's not very well displayed. And what I want is to remove this value that I got in here. So I'm going to set to-dos to an empty string immediately after I added the to-do in here. So I got my items down here. So let's finish quickly here. So my list of to-do, okay, my list of to-do will be, actually I'm going to render directly. Yeah, exactly, to-do item. It will be to-do item. And in this item, I'm going to pass first my key, but I'm going to also to pass a props which is here called item. It could be blah blah blah, whatever you want. Here I call it item, and I push my to-do, which will be X. And also, I'm going to trigger an event that I call myself on remove. It could be also blah blah blah, whatever. Me, I put it on remove. And I want to trigger a function that will be called remove to do the X. So up there, I'm going to create my remove to do function. And this item, what is this item doing? This item is going to set a new to do, exactly as we did up there. But the difference now is that we want to remove the to do item that we've got in here. So I'm going to just filter. And I want you to filter my new table without the item I'm clicking down. So now I go on my item, and on my item here I will need an argument, and this argument will be props because we passed our item. Okay, to have an input of type checkbox, and on click I want to trigger my element from the props, which is props on remove. Okay, and down there, of course, I want to show what items we are talking about. So it's going to be props item. Let's add a bit of styling in here. So I'm going to type my display flex to do on the fly. I had it, and when I click on it, it's removing my event. Let's get back on what we did. So we imported use state. We created two elements actually. one for the new to-do, another one for the list of the to-dos, with a function called add to-do. From the button add to-do, we add our to-do. The new to-do is set on this input, and we've got an element, a to-do item, that triggers on click the remove. All right? So this was a quick example on how you could manage different components to create a functional element in your website. We arrive now at a step of this quick course on a very important topic for me, provided by Next.js, which is its API system. If you already notice in Pages, we've got an API folder with a hello.js file. And it's exporting a function with a require and res argument, and it really looks like Node.js. So if you didn't do Node.js before, Node.js is a JavaScript framework to create backend application and especially servers. And here we understand that Next.js is exposing for us through the API folder some kind of backend server. This is what I like the most with Next.js, is that you have a server side that you can directly use on the app. This directory is dedicated to our server of our Next.js app running. It's like you are running another Node.js server on your front-end app. And this is why most Next.js developers call Next.js a backend framework. So if I go here and I type API/hello, which is crazy, it's that we arrive, on the answer provided by the backend, which is here. And let's say that I create a new file called products, let's call it products.js. And I export by default a new function that will be always called handler. And this, let's say that this new function is going to raise a status of 200 and return a JSON object, which will be a list of products. And let's say that we get back on our page products, which is here, and we use this list. All right. Now I've got a route, exactly like the file routing system that has been created for me on the API products. And look at that, I got my products in here, which is amazing and leads us to the main topic for me about Next.js, which is data fetching and rendering options they provide to us. With Next.js, you have different fetching strategy and you have different rendering option also. Let's talk about SSG, static site generation. On static site generation, the HTML is generated at build time. It means that when I'm running my next build, it's going to generate all the HTML at one time. The server will be rendering this HTML on request. It's very fast because it's just simply static, okay? But now we said this, we said nothing, because basically this is what we got in here. We've got the static generation right there. There is two questions to ask. How does it work without data, and how does it work with data? Data to fetch, all right? So without data, it's exactly what we just explained until this step of the course. You just render normally your page built previously. But when you have to fetch data, it's different, because when you run next build, it fetches data and generates HTML at the build time, at the moment when you build your application. So the data will be fixed forever at that moment. We will see an option later to revalidate this data when it will be called server by the clients, okay? So what I propose you to do is, let's say that we will stay on the home page, all right? We are on the home page right now, and I want to fetch my products that I have on my here on my endpoint. How can I do this? Let's talk about static right now, okay? Don't misunderstand. So export async function, and here I want to be on the static, okay, on the static site generation with data. So what I want to use is get static props. Get static props, it's a function provided that helps us to fetch data or provide operation when we are on SSG. So I'm going to call my endpoint. Okay, so right now my endpoint, I use my own local endpoint. Okay, you can use all the endpoints you want until the moment you have the ability to fetch the products. So I'm going to call API products, which is, you saw the example before. And I'm going to say that I want my data to be transformed as a JSON. And I want to pass this data here. All right? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to return props, products, and here I want my data.products because I will receive data here. And if you remember well, it will be this object with this product element in here. Once I have this, on my home here, I can destructure my props. And on my props, I have products. So here, with get static props, I operate my fetch and I distribute my products object. So now I got my products. Here, I can display my products just in here. So it's not a title, it's going to be a name. And I'm going to get back. I'm going to on my home page. And there we go. Okay? I got my elements that have been fetched from this URL, which is mine. So this is, okay, this is SSG with data. We use get static props for this static site generation. All right? There is a problem with that because when I'm going to build my website, it's going to be on the fly that is going to fetch. And not every time a user is going to come back. So the data will be not fresh. To do that, we can use what we call ESR, so incremental static regeneration. To update the data, okay, to update new data in here, we need to refetch every time. And to do that, we can pass here under props, revalidate. And revalidate, let's say that we want to revalidate every 60 seconds. Let's say that every 60 seconds, I want my data to be refreshed. It's different from static site generation. Now we got another possibility, which is very liked by SEO because Google Robot rates your website on how fast you render your page. And SSR, server-side rendering, is very sexy for that. Next.js provides server-side rendering. It's different from static site generation. Why? Because on every request, the server-side rendering generates new HTML. So basically, we fetch external data and we generate HTML every time we render. And in order to do that, we don't use the function getStaticProps, but we use the function getServerSideProps. GetServerSideProps. Okay? It's exactly the same, but on every request, it's operated server-side. So on the fly here, there is no change, no big change, because I'm fetching local data, but it gives a lot of difference. If you are really into SEO, I highly recommend get server-side props, okay? because it will help you to grow your Google rate, and it will be better, way better for your ranking. It's very important, and this is one of the main reasons a lot of people are using Next.js, because it's amazing for this kind of problem. All right, so we recapitulate. There is static site generation with or without data. There is incremental static regeneration, and there is server-side rendering.